well, welcome to Should I Stay or Should I Go? What you need to know. Just real quick, as you just heard, all attendees are on mute. However, we are happy to take questions as we go along. So if any questions pop up, please feel free to use that chat section in the webinar control panel, and we'll certainly get to questions throughout the presentation. So our agenda today, we want to just talk a little bit about Boyer, who we are, what we do, just in case some of you are not familiar with us. What we're really here though is to compare Dynamics SL to Dynamics 365 Business Central. So really the big thing here is we just want to give you information as to what is happening with Dynamics SL, what does Business Central look like, what does that transition potentially look like if you're making the move. So it's really just to help give you information to make the right decision for your company. Should we stay on SL? Or are we ready to make a move and start looking at Business Central? So with SL, we'll look at the roadmap. We'll look at some of the new features that are coming out and the life cycle. Then we'll get into Business Central. So why would you want to move to Business Central? And again, just to be clear, Business Central is not Dynamics SL in the cloud. There are some similarities to the programs. They're all underneath Microsoft's umbrella, but it is a different application from Dynamics SL. And then we will end with a demonstration of Business Central. So the demo will be pretty high level, just give you an idea of look and feel and some functionality in the system. We are more than happy though to have a specific tailor-made demo for your organization if it is something you would like to look at in more depth and more detail. So my name is Eric Vigasa. I have been with Boyer for over 13 years. I have worked in multiple roles here at Boyer. I was a consultant. I actually ran one of our consulting practices for a few years. I became a solution architect. I worked on the sales side of things. So a lot of different roles. Consulting is definitely more of my background with Business Central and some other applications. Our mission statement is making businesses better. So this is truly what we want to do. We want to be in a partnership with you. We want to help your ERP application work better for your organization, and we really want to help empower your data through connectivity of systems. So a lot of what we do is help people get reports out of the system. A lot of our clients have other standalone systems that we want to help integrate into either Dynamics SL or Business Central. So we really want to try to help reduce redundancies and help with getting that data out for your organization. A little bit more about Boyer. So we were founded back in 1994. We actually started out as a Dynamics SL shop, so or Solomon back then. So the founder actually worked for Solomon way back in the early 90s. And from there, we acquired a GP practice. So we do Dynamics GP as well. And then we actually got on with Business Central when it first came out. So we were looking for a cloud offering ERP solution. We actually looked at multiple products out on the market, and we decided on Business Central as we just thought it was one of the stronger products, and we really believe in Microsoft's vision, and as you'll see, Microsoft's investment into the product. But we do have 420 clients across those product lines. We are a gold certified partner with Microsoft, and that is the highest certification. Again, one of the top 5% of partners taking clients to the cloud. So we were in the early stages of it. We went through some of the early pains, and the product has really improved over the years. And we've had a lot of success moving people to the cloud. And we are also a Microsoft Cloud nonprofit launch partner. So we have been partnered with Microsoft on the nonprofit industry, and that is definitely one of our focuses here at Boyer. So again, the right-hand side here, these are just some of the products we work with. So it is Dynamics 365 Business Central. There's an old product called Dynamics NAV, which is an on-premise product, Dynamics GP and Dynamics SL. So we work with all those as well. So again, we are a Microsoft-centric shop. All we do is work with Microsoft products. In the middle, that's the old CRM product. So we do work with the CRM as well. We've got a very strong team there with the Dynamics 365 sales, marketing, customer service. That's where the fundraising and engagement piece is as well. So we can work with all that. And then at the bottom is the Power Platform series as well. So Power Platform are a set of tools from Microsoft. They are not Business Central specific. That is ways that we can actually expand the functionality of Dynamics SL is with Power Platform. So we can leverage Power BI for reporting, or we can leverage Power Automate if we need to automate any kind of tasks or movement of data in and out of Dynamics SL. So there are tools out there from Microsoft to extend out the functionality of Business Central. This is our proven process. So this process we go through really regardless of the project that you work on with us. So one option we're going to mention is that you can upgrade SL if you haven't done so already. And if you do an upgrade, you go through this process. So we'll actually do an analyze. We'll look at your current system, figure out how many companies you have, how big is your database, what's your SQL server look like, what do your operating systems look like. And then we will write up a design document of this is what it's going to take to get you upgraded to the latest SL version, including any other hardware and software requirements you may have. We then go into build, where we'll do test upgrade, make sure we do all of our user acceptance testing in that test upgrade. Once we get a go forward approval, we'll go into deploy, so we'll cut you over to production environment, and then you're operating on the new version of SL. If you choose to go to Business Central, we actually go through the same process. It's slightly different, but we go through the same stages. So we'll do an analyze stage, but in this stage, we're now actually sitting down with your subject matter experts to understand, okay, what are your key requirements? What pains do you maybe have in SL that we can address in Business Central, because there are some improvements there, and just kind of the key requirements of the system. We'll then write up a design document of this is what the solution is going to look like in Business Central. We will do initial data migration out of SL. We will set up a sandbox environment, do all of our key process testing, have that go, no go decision. We decide we want to go forward with the cutover to production Business Central. So we'll do that in the deploy phase. And then you are operating and live upon Business Central. So comparing the two, user interface is very different. It is a much more modern look and feel. It is a total cloud solution, so it is accessed through a web browser, tablet, or a phone. So there is a mobile app that you can actually use to connect to Business Central. So that's one of the strengths of it, is all you need is an internet connection and a device, and you can connect to Business Central, whether you're at the airport, on the beach, in your office, or at home. Architecture, there are no servers, so it all runs in Microsoft's Azure environment. Upgrades are automatic, so they typically push out in April and October timeframes. Microsoft will do test upgrades. They will alert us as your partner if any issues came up with that. In the past, we have had a handful of issues, so we've been able to address those prior to the production upgrade. Microsoft then runs a production upgrade, and those have been, for the most part, very seamless upgrades. Again, a couple of problems have popped up, but nothing real concerning on our end. Financial reporting, FRX or management reporter, will go away, so that is not used with SL. There is a built-in tool called account schedules, which is similar in concept to management reporter, but it is not management reporter. And again, it is built in. And then there are other reporting tools like Power BI is actually a great option if you want to use that for financials. Or there's another tool called Jet Reports that a lot of our Business Central users use to create financials. Both products can be customized. They're just called extensions in Business Central. And then third-party vendors. So very common in Dynamics SL's world is there are what we call ISVs, or independent software vendors, that will create add-ons for SL where you can extend the functionality in some way, shape, or form. Business Central's got the same concept, but there's actually an app store that you can go to search, review, look up. Most of them have 30-day trial periods as well, where you can load that into a sandbox. But again, it's just companies that are extending functionality of Business Central. All right, so the first question is, should we stay on SL? So reasons to say is it is less disruptive. So like I mentioned, Business Central is a different system. So there is going to be training and there is going to be a learning curve there. The learning curve we've seen from other people coming off of other systems to Business Central is less of a curve, just because, again, there is some similarity in concepts and look and feel, but it is going to be a little more disruptive to go to Business Central. Less immediate cost as well. So again, an upgrade versus implementing a system, there's going to be higher costs with that implementation. So if you stay in SL, it is going to be cheaper for you. SL is stable and trusted, so it's been around for a while. It's very strong platform. We still support it today because we believe in the system. And then Microsoft continued investment. So this is the big one. So in years past, we've told people, you have time to stay on SL. You don't have to make any rash decisions and getting off the platform. And we'll show you the life cycle in a second. But that's starting to come up to this Windows is getting closer and closer now to where Dynamics SL mainstream support is going to be ending in a few years. And again, we're going to talk about that here in a second. So Microsoft is committed to improving the product, but as you're going to see in the life cycle, that window's closing, and we're going to have to really start making some decisions and choices on what we can do with the system. So reasons to upgrade. I just want to pop a poll here real quick just to see what version people are on, and before I kind of talk about the reasons to upgrade. So if you want to go ahead and just select which version of SL you're on, we'll kind of talk about your options there. And one thing that is going to jump out at you is the choices. So the choice is Dynamics SL 2018. That is the latest version. Again, we'll look at that here in a second. And that is telling where we are 4 years past that initial release date, and Microsoft has pretty much stated that they're not going to do another major release of Dynamics SL. So that does tell you that development for the product is waning, which we definitely see. There's not a lot of new functionality and features coming out. Part of it is the system's been around for a while and there's only so much you can put into the system, but other pieces of it are Microsoft's just not investing in it like they used to. So a good chunk of you are on 2015 or even 2011 or older. So reasons to actually do an upgrade is to leverage new platforms. So maybe you want to get it on a newer version of SQL. Well, the odds are you actually got to get on SL 2018 to leverage newer versions of SQL. Or maybe you want to get on Windows 11. We're probably going to have to do an upgrade to SL to be able to leverage some of those new operating systems. Stay current's another really big one. When we get to the life cycle, you'll see that, where if you are on 2011, you're no longer getting mainstream support, and we'll talk about what that means. And you might even be out of extended support as well, which is a big thing if you were to run into problems. Lower cost and less disruption. So if you are on an older version of SL, we sometimes have to make multiple upgrade jumps, so it's just going to take longer. It's going to be more expensive. Or if you get on more of every other year is sometimes a recommendation we have that you're upgrading. It's a little bit easier for us to get you to the newer version. And then the last two here is leverage software that's paid for and leverage new functionality. So part of your annual renewal with Microsoft is giving you access to the new license keys for SL. So you are paying for that software. So if you're not upgrading, you're not leveraging functionality and new features that you have already paid for. So that's another reason we just recommend upgrading is take advantage of your investment. So this is just some new features. Again, I'm not going to go through all of these, but we do see Microsoft putting some improvements in. A lot of it's kind of little improvements here and there, but they are making good changes to the system. This is something we do go through with our upgrades, though, is we do like to cover what is new, just so that you're aware of what it is. And sometimes there is some implementation that might be required, and we just want to see if that is functionality you'd like to leverage or not. This is the roadmap. So the roadmap really stops after 2022. Microsoft's not really committing to anything. They still say they'll put feature requests in, they're doing ongoing development, but they're not really projecting anything big like they did in years past. And again, that really is just their investment. They're just not putting a lot of dev investment into the product. So this is the big one, the Dynamics lifecycle. So you can see in the very bottom left-hand corner, current version is SL 2018 with cumulative update 8. So if you are on that, you are on the latest and greatest version. And if we just look at the middle, for example, where some of you did mention you were on Dynamics SL 2011, that was released back in June of 2011, and then a couple of service packs came out a few years later. So when you look to the right column where mainstream support end dates is not applicable, that means support for 2011 no longer exists at the mainstream level. What the mainstream level is Microsoft will continue to release code updates, hot fixes, Tax updates is a big one. If you're using SL for payroll, you will no longer get tax updates after that 2012 date, or I'm sorry, it would have been 2016. So if you look at the third line from the bottom, when Service Pack 3 came out for SL, you can see that extended the mainstream support out to 2016. So that's what Microsoft typically does, is 5 years after a release, they will put that product in mainstream support. So what that means is if Microsoft does come out with another cumulative update 9 in the end of the year potentially, they will support then that product in mainstream for 5 years after that. So that does put you out in around 2027 timeframe when you would still be able to get tax updates, service packs. If you run into a bug, Microsoft might do a hot fix. The extended support date for 2011 Service Pack 3 has already passed. That was July of 2021. So again, what they typically do is, and this one wasn't quite 10 years, but usually 10 years after an initial release, they put the product into extended support. What extended support means is they will no longer release any code updates, any tax updates, no code changes whatsoever, no service packs. But if you run into a problem with the software and we have to reach out to Microsoft, they will support you on the product. So if you are still on 2011 and something happened and we had to get Microsoft involved, they could push back and say, no, you need to upgrade. We won't support that version anymore. Now, we will do all we can to support you regardless of the version you're on, but that is a potential issue if you stay on that product. So if we look at Dynamics SL 2018, we can see that it released first in May of 2018. So mainstream support is out until next year on this product. So that, again, is starting to close the window as to tax updates, any kind of service packs, hot fixes, and so on and so forth. So if you are running payroll or you are running 1099s through SL, you might have to do something. And there are ways, to still run 1099s through another service, so you don't have to have that be a deciding factor to get off of SL, but it is something to consider. And then extended support for 2018 is going out through 2028. So again, if the product is working great and you're not having a lot of problems and we're not really worried about tax updates is kind of the big thing, you do have about another 6 years of Microsoft support on the application. So it really isn't like you have to make a quick decision to get off of the system. But it definitely, it's coming up fast. And it is something that you want to start thinking about is what are our options looking like? What's that process looking like? So on and so forth. All right, so you've got the option to stay on SL. Maybe it's time to go. Is it time to look at Business Central? Some reasons to go to Business Central is, again, those automatic upgrades. They've been pretty seamless. New functionality is coming out with them twice a year. Big functionality in some cases is coming out, and there is no additional cost for it. It's all included in that license. No hardware cost either. So again, your server might have a 10-year lifespan on it, maybe 8 years, and you've got to replace that hardware. With Business Central, again, that's all part of the licensing. You don't have to pay for servers. There are no client installs. There's really nothing to maintain on your end because it's all running in that Azure environment. As I mentioned, accessibility. If you've got an internet connection and a phone, you can connect to Business Central. With that app, there's a few things you can't do, like create a GL account, but for the most part, you can look up vendors, you can create new invoices, you can look at posted transactions. So there's a lot of functionality with that. From a laptop, then it is, of course, full functionality through a web browser. And again, all you need is an internet connection and you can connect to it. So with the way workplaces are changing today, it really is a seamless way to connect to your accounting software. And then continued investment. Microsoft for a few years now has stated they want to be in cloud ERP. Business Central is their product, and they are heavily investing in it. And we see that investment. There are a lot of improvements and changes coming with the software. So this is a quote from the CEO, Satya Nadella. Again, Microsoft's understanding you are trusting their data in their environment, and they are very committed to the security of that information. So all their SOC compliance information is online, all their data encryption, their redundancies, they're doing your backups for you as well. all of that is published and available if you need it for an audit firm or something of that nature, but something Microsoft's very committed to. This shows you the functionality in the software. So again, we were on board early on, I want to say 6-7 years ago, and Business Central definitely had some functionality gaps. Those gaps have quickly been filled. So it's a very, very robust system. So that dark blue circle shows it's got full financials capabilities, full distribution, full supply chain, and has a very strong manufacturing module as well. One thing that isn't out of the box with Business Central is a payroll module like SL has. So if you are doing payroll, there is one of those add-ons that you could have to put payroll into Business Central, or you'd have to move to some kind of a service, and then we just integrate the system. So I just want to make you aware of that. When we go out to that other circle, the bigger circle, that's now where we're extending functionality of Business Central. So we can do EDI or barcoding, e-commerce. There's actually Shopify integrations out of the box with Business Central. So we're able to extend the functionality of Business Central. Then we get out to that white circle, and that's where we're now extending it even farther into the Microsoft 365 sphere. So we can use Power BI for reporting. I'm going to show you how we can use Excel to interact with our data. We can connect to vendors and customers through Outlook if we want to. So there's functionality as part of that Office 365 environment. The smaller blue circle, that's the old CRM component. So those are overlaying because there are out-of-the-box integrations between CRM and Business Central. So we can share customers. We can have orders from CRM come into Business Central, get fulfilled their invoice. The invoice goes back up into CRM. Same with the fundraising and engagement. So that's why those two overlay. All right, let's get into Business Central. So this screenshot here is just giving kind of an idea of what that mobile app looks like. So again, it's something you just install from Apple App Store or Google Play, but it does give you a pretty good functionality there. So I'm going to hop into Business Central. I am in Microsoft Edge right now. Business Central, though, is browser agnostic, so you really can use any browser you want. I've ran it in Firefox, Opera, Safari, Chrome, of course. The only reason I'm starting off here in Edge is I just wanted to show that I am signed in with my domain account. So I'm using the sample user called mod admin. And with that account, when I click on the waffle here in Edge and go to all of my apps, this is showing how Microsoft's tying Business Central in with all their products. So here's where I can see, I can access my Excel, I can get into my Outlook, connect to Power BI, SharePoint is in here as well, and there's where Business Central sits. So it's all licensed through your Azure Active Directory, and it does show up here with all those other Microsoft products. Click on Business Central here, and the first thing that's going to pop up as it signs me in is multiple environments. So again, with Business Central, I can clone production and set up a true sandbox environment. So that's what it's telling me here is, do you want to go to one of your sandbox or do you want to log into production? So very easy way to reduce any kind of risks of any testing you do, any code testing, so on and so forth. So these are completely separate from a production environment. So I'll just go ahead and log into Business Central here, and you'll see, look at what that initial page looks like. So this is my, what we call home page or my landing page. This is based on the role I'm assigned to. I'll actually switch this later on to a project manager role, and you'll just kind of see how things change here. But what it's basically doing is I'm set up as a business manager right now. So I'm really concerned with all things cash related, you know, how much cash is coming in. I can see my outstanding customer balances here, how much cash is going out. I can see what we owe our vendors here. These queues, and I can set up thresholds on these. So maybe $270 is actually acceptable. I could have this show as green instead if I wanted to, but 600,000 definitely is not acceptable. So that's why it's showing red. Any of these fact boxes or these queues, I can click on and actually see the details behind them. When I come into a page like this, this is what we call a list view. So you will see this all throughout the system, whether I'm looking at my chart of accounts, GL transactions. In this case, these are posted past due AP invoices. Look at my vendors, look at my items. They all look in a view like this. So these views actually function a lot like a quick query in SL. So it's doing multiple things. Not only can I take action on some of these, you know, maybe I need to void out one of the transactions, or maybe I know I've got a payment for this invoice. I could apply that payment in here. I can also drill back on this information as well, this find entries, no matter where I'm at on a transaction level, whether I'm at the GL or at the subledger, if I do this find entries, it's going to show me every touch point it had in the system. So I'm really able to now drill back to look at the details of this. So I can see this transaction did originate from an invoice, and I can look at the complete GL entry here as well. So I just drill down on that. Here I'm now in a different kind of a list view, but I'm actually showing the GL and entry that this invoice had. If I actually want to click onto that invoice, if I'm concerned just with the invoice, I can actually just drill on it from here as well. This will take me into the original invoice. So this is what the data entry screen looks like, whether you're doing a quote, order, invoice on either the sales or purchasing side. This is essentially what it looks like. Now, this is all grayed out because it is posted. I can't just go and change anything, but I am able to look at this document, and we'll look at a little bit more how to create a new document down the road here. But like a quick query, if I want to sort or filter, maybe I want to look at this specific vendor here, I could actually filter to that vendor value and just look at vendor 3000 in this case. I've also got this little icon in the upper right hand corner here. So all of my list views have this option here where I can dump this data out to an Excel file. I can actually edit this data in Excel. Now again, in the case of posted documents, really the only thing I can edit is due date. I can't change vendor, I can't change dollar amount. I can share this information through Teams. So if I want somebody to look at these specific transactions, I can share that through Teams. Or I could copy the link up here and then email it off to somebody. So all they have to do is click on the link, and as long as they've got access to Business Central and access to this page, we're able to have a conversation on the exact same thing here. So I'll just dump this out to Excel real quick. There's that data. So there's my information. Also, like a quick query, I do have the ability to click on this gear icon and go to personalize. So I can move fields around. I could hide certain fields. You know, maybe this payment discount date just doesn't apply to me. I don't offer discounts. I could actually just hide this value here. And maybe there's additional columns I do want in here. So I can click on this add field, and I can see all of the available fields I do have to add in. This is one area where Microsoft is expanding out. So this list doesn't include everything within the database. We certainly have the ability to put those fields in, but as Microsoft releases new updates, they keep putting more and more fields in here that we can add on to these types of screens and pages here. Okay, just hit the back button, get back to my home page here. Just some other things quick on this home page. I've got approvals in the system, so there are built-in workflows. If I need to route a invoice through the system, or maybe I need to have an approval before we onboard a new customer, or timesheets. I'm doing projects in Business Central. I need to have those timesheets get approved. I can have workflows there. If I click on this fact box, it'll open up my documents that I have for approval. This is another thing that the app is really nice at, is if you are in an airport, you'd still have that same fact box where I can just click on that on my app, takes me to this screen. I could take action on that document. If I actually want to see the original document, I can open the record up, and now I am looking at that purchase invoice, and I would be able to approve it. This screen, you can see stuff isn't grayed out, so if I needed to make edits, this is an unposted document, so I would be able to make any kind of edits here. Now I'd have to retract that approval because it is pending somebody's revision, but I would be able to cancel that approval, make edits to this, and then route it back through approval. If I click on the fact box up here, I'd be able to see if I had any attachments on here. So there's actually a couple places we can put attachments. I could have notes on here. So I'm actually able to see some details on here. I can see vendor information as well. I can look at and see, boy, we owe this vendor a lot. Are we sure we want to do another invoice with them? And I do have the ability to drill down into some of these fields here as well. And one other thing you'll notice here real quick is on the posted purchase invoice I looked at, I was coding to items. Here, this one is actually coded to GL account. So when I click on a line here, I actually have the option to select one of these values. So if you are a service-based organization or you just don't track products at all, I don't have to do transactions through items. Items on Business Central can be non-inventory or service-based. So if you just want to have that product code that's tied to GL accounts, that is an option. But this is how I could just record my invoices and just book it directly to a GL account. Now again, here I can't make changes to it because it is in approval status, but that would be what that would look like. Back out of that. And then here's some other information I have. So I've got the ability to have some charts in here. In this case, I'm looking at an AP aging. I could look at an AR aging or a cash flow. I can interact with this as well. I want to see, what's the 7-month past due balance? That's looking pretty big. I can click on that. I can see those invoices here. Again, same option. If I want this data in Excel, I can. If I want to drill back and look at those original entries, I'm able to do that as well. I can also initiate payment right from here as well. So maybe I do want to pay some of these invoices off on this 7-month past due balance. I can get that payment started. It's not actually going to transact or produce a check or an ACH yet, but it queues it up into my payables batch. So when my AP clerk goes and runs checks, that one's already going to be in there. Now, of course, I have to have security to be able to do that, but as long as I have access to create that transaction, I'm able to do that through the screen here. Then Power BI. So I do have the ability to have Power BI reports in here. So I can create custom Power BI reports and embed them into Business Central here. And these reports I can interact on. So if I want to go look at Minnesota here, I can actually click and you can see how everything adjusts. Now this is kind of small, so if I want to expand this report out, I can. But this isn't just a static image of a report. This is actually an interactive report that I can click on, move through, select some of these filters here as well if I want to, but I'm able to analyze my data in this manner. Of course, with Power BI, you do have the ability, and I'll just click on the little waffle here, to go right to the Power BI desktop, so you don't have to be in Business Central to look at reports. So this is just another example of Power BI where I'm looking at sales information. So it's just some sample reports of the flexibility you have with here. So I can actually move through some pages here and I'm going to get different views and captures of my data. So this is going to show me just kind of a quick overview of how our sales is looking. I've got filters that I can put in here as well. If I want to go and do a deep dive into some of my invoices, I can come here and I can actually look at different years here. So maybe I want to look at 2022. When I click on that, the report's going to change and show me sales for each month. I can see June looks like we did pretty good. I can click on June, and now it's going to take me and show me the customers that we sold into. And maybe I want to go look at this one, active transport. I can click on that customer, and I can actually keep drilling in to that page in Business Central. So maybe I want to go look at those actual customer ledger entries. I've got that ability to do that. So I've got ways to kind of navigate through the reports and get a view. I can also look at, and again, another KPI here. So as I mentioned, you can use Business Central to create financial reports. You can do it to do operational reports in here. I can have things that are more just kind of a table-based view where I just want to see transactions and I want to see invoice numbers and customers. So kind of creating, again, that quick query type view of data. So a lot of different kind of functionality around Power BI. Then finally, again, just some other views here. Trial balance report, I do have the ability to click down onto these amounts. And I can actually drill down. So just ways to get quick information. So navigating through the system, again, based on my role, I've got this 2-click menu here. If I click on finance, this is where I can go look at my chart of accounts. I can create journal entries, do fixed assets. I can create budgets. Budgets in Business Central are pretty simple, very similar to SL, but it's very easy for me to create those budgets in Excel and actually import them into Business Central. So that's all out of the box imports from Excel back into Business Central. Cash management, here's where I can do my bank reconciliations. There's actually where my vendor payments go. So if I would have created that payment, it would have landed into this page here. I look at sales, there's my customers, items, quotes, orders, invoices, posted documents. If I look at purchasing, it mirrors closely sales, where I've got vendors, quotes, orders, invoices. I don't have to initiate things from a quote or an order. Again, if it's just all service-based transactions, just initiate an invoice, but I do have the ability to start documents at any layer that I want for individual departments. Maybe IT does need to do purchase orders because they're going to physically receive laptops or servers in. But everybody else, we're just going to do purchase invoices. There's where that Shopify integration is as well. So if you do have that e-commerce store, I am able to link up to some Shopify. I've also got the ability to set up bookmarks. So if there's any other page that I commonly go to and I want a quick link to it, I can bookmark that page. So chart of accounts, I go in there quite a bit. I'll just click on that. So here's where I've got that bookmark icon. So any page I visit, I can click on that. So this is what the chart of accounts looks like, or I should say sample chart of accounts looks like in Business Central. If you want to migrate your chart over as is from SL, we absolutely can do that. If you want to take this opportunity to make changes to it, we certainly can do that as well. That's actually one of our primary discussions we have when we go through that analyze phase with you in our proven process. So this is what the chart looks like. I am able to have some sections in here for some totaling. This just kind of helps with the reporting. Do you have the ability to drill back on anything as well? So if I do want to look at that inventory balance, I can click on that. Again, this is like a quick query at this point, so I can sort, filter. Maybe I'm searching for a specific document. I just know it was, oh, I don't know, it's got 50 in it. So the system's actually going to go through here and find anything with a 50, whether it's on the amounts here or the description. I do have the ability to set up favorite views here as well. So if I want to go back and actually look at 2019 transactions, I can do that. If I want to clear this filter on the GL account, I can actually clear that filter. Now I'm looking at every single transaction in the system. So I want to look at this project one. So what you can actually see in here is how Business Central is now extending the chart of accounts with dimensions. So think of the SL sub account, but separated out. So I can actually set up 8 dimensions to track other information and report on that information. So that's where if I flip this over to project 01, I can see all the transactions now for that project. Same thing here. If I want to dump this data to Excel, I certainly could. So if I want to go look at my dimensions, dimensions is one of those pages I don't go to very often. So what I can do is just click the looking glass here and type in dimensions. So what the system's doing now is it's going through the whole system and saying, okay, I found things related to dimensions in this case. I've got pages related to the transactions that you can go into. So if I want to just view all the dimensions in one page, I can actually correct posted dimensions. So somebody coded to the wrong department. Instead of backing that transaction out and re-entering it, I can just code it to the right department and it'll adjust that transaction and keep an audit trail of what happened as well. Here's where I actually go and maintain my dimensions. So I'll go into that page here in a second. I've got reports related to dimensions, so I can run a dimensional trial balance, so on and so forth. I've got 31 products here in this app source. So again, these are those ISVs. So there are 31 products out here that are extending the functionality of dimensions in some way, shape, or form. So again, I could click on one of these, look at what that's doing. Maybe that looks like that's going to meet our needs, put that into a sandbox environment, test it out first, make a go, no-go decision on that, and then roll it into production. I can also go to the documentation, the help. So Microsoft's got really good online help where I can read, how do I leverage dimensions? How do I enter an invoice? How do I create a vendor? And there's actually video tutorials as well in their Learn program on how I can actually go through and watch videos on how I do some of that key functionality. But I'll just click on this dimension page. So again, this is completely defined by you, and we can have up to 8 of these dimensions. If you only want to have 1, great. If you need 3, perfect. This can adjust as your system adjusts too. So as your company grows and changes, maybe I've got, fund in here. Well, we no longer need to track funds. That's not important to me. So I can actually keep the value in here so I can still see that data from a historical standpoint. But going forward, we're not going to record that information. So I can change my setup and actually track to different dimensions. But if I look at departments here, for example, this is the page I go into to set up my department. So if I need to onboard a new department or a new profit center, it's as easy as just typing that number in here, and now that's ready to be used with my system. So this code can be alphanumeric. If you want to keep more of that traditional GL account string numbering sequence, you certainly could, or we can definitely just do the alpha values now so that's a little clearer as to what they are. But once I go do a transaction, you're going to see it's pretty easy to see what you're coding that to. Another example though is regions. Maybe I want to track, where are we buying and selling things from? If I look at the regions, you can actually see I can have roll-ups in here. So if you are using Management Reporter and you're used to the trees in Management Reporter, this is kind of replicating that concept where I can have multiple roll-ups. So I want to be able to report on all of my US, but I'm going to code to these regions individually so I can still report down to this level, but I'm also able to get a roll-up of these different regions. But we don't have to think of dimensions from strictly a financial reporting standpoint. Maybe I want to do operational reporting, so I want to do revenue analysis or product sales analysis. I can have a customer group in here. So if I look at these values, I can actually code transactions at the sub ledger, which will roll into the general ledger, as to what size of a company are we doing business is. as 80% of our sales going to small companies, but 60% of our revenue is actually from large businesses. Well, that's information that I can use now to target my markets better and focus on what companies are really profitable for us. So again, these are dimensions we can assign to the customer records. They'll default onto every transaction, and then I'm able to do some of that analysis reporting off of that. All right, so let's go back here, back to my home page. So let's look at how we code dimensions onto certain transactions. I'll just go ahead and go into my general journals here. And I'll show you also on a sales or purchasing document as well how we get those dimensions in here. But I'm just going to go ahead and go into one of my batches. So here's a sample journal entry that I have in the system. Again, I can have some detailed information on here. If I want to attach supporting documents to this journal entry, I'm able to do that. That document will stay with that transaction. If this page is taking up space though, I can hide that. So here's now where I've got my GL account number, and here's where I've got my dimensions. Again, I can personalize this page. So if I want the account number and all my dimensions running along, I certainly can do that. So I can come up here and actually personalize what this data entry screen looks like. So I can start moving things around. I can hide things. Maybe I need to add currency code back into here. I can add fields in here as well. Make this screen look like the way I want to code it to. So coding dimensions is really as simple as I can pick my GL account here. It's going to give me a lookup of my GL accounts. I'm not sure what the account number is, but I want to record this to an expense. Start typing it in. You can see Business Central does a search on that account number. So I can grab that advertising expense. I'm going to do $1,000 here, and now I can start coding it. So we're going to put it to IT. I want to put it to that region 45. If I actually want to do a lookup though, I can click the lookup here. So this is where you can see again, whether we do alphanumeric, I can still get a pretty clear indication of what I'm coding to. You will notice that that 50 code is not in here. So those rollups, I cannot code directly to them. They really are just reporting only function. And then I want to code this to project 1 as well. Any of these grid views I have, again, whether I'm doing price updates or journal entries or line items on a sales order, any of these grids I can actually copy and paste from Excel into here. So if I just open up my Excel file, I've got a sample entry here. The rule with the copy and paste is I just have to make sure that my columns are lining up with my page. So again, if I would have personalized this and moved department over, I would have broken the copy and paste. So all I've got is everything's just kind of lining up here. So I can just go ahead and copy these cells, and I will just paste it into this grid. So there's my entry. I left document number blank, so it's saying, well, that is a required field. Left it blank because I want the system to default the next available document in for me. So I'm just going to quickly renumber this. So there's my transaction. One thing you're going to notice here is my offset is actually going to a bank account. So if I preview the posting here, Business Central has the ability to do bi-directional posting. So this is going to create a bank transaction for me in my bank ledger. So I'm able to record this withdrawal of $20,000 so I can reconcile this against my bank statement later on in the week. And then it's also going to create that offset to cash for me. So my cash account's tied to my bank account. So there it's going to complete my journal entry for me. So what that means is I do have flexibility entering transactions. So maybe I'm in the screen and I get a call from Boyer and they say, you know what, we billed you incorrectly on one of your invoices and we're going to give you a $200 credit. So you can actually see in this screen, I can adjust posting dates. It's going to give me a new document number in here, and I'm going to go ahead and say, all right, I'm going to just put this credit memo in right now. Now, I absolutely could go to the vendor record and do the credit memo if I wanted to. In fact, that's what probably I would say most people do. But if you do, just for simplicity, and I want to just get it entered in here, I can just enter it right in this transaction here. So now I'm going to switch this to be a vendor. Now, when I do my lookup here, it's actually looking at my vendors instead of my account list. So it's smart enough to see, okay, you're doing a vendor transaction. Here's your vendor list. Don't know the vendor number, but I know it's Boyer. Can just start typing that in, finds that record for me. I'm getting a $200 credit. You can see the department did default onto here. If I want to change it, I certainly can. I could have a rule though that this cannot be changed. It has to be production for Boyer. I can have other rules in here as well where regions got to get populated. Again, this would be one that I probably could default in because I know Boyer's in the Midwest. And then I could record my project in here as well. So this was part of my implementation project. Now I want to offset this to my consulting services, so I'm just going to come in here and do the same line and record that to consulting services. Absolutely could put multiple lines on here, so maybe I've got to split it out and we're going to allocate it to different groups. I certainly could do that. But now when I preview this posting, you're going to see 3 types of transactions are going to get created. It's still doing that bank entry. Here's where it's going to create that vendor transaction for me. So it's going to post this back to my vendor subledger. So when we get a new invoice, I can apply it to that invoice and take that credit. And then it's going to create that full GL for me as well. So here's where it's going to do my credit to my expense account and debit to my AP account. All right, let's look at how we get coding on a purchase invoice, for example. So if I come into my purchase invoices, well, I'll go to purchase order. So here's my list of open POs. So you can see some are pending approval, some have been released, so we're waiting on receipts. Maybe I want to see, what have we received but we have an invoice for. That's where I can look at my favorites that I've set up here. So I've actually got a receive not invoice favorite view that I've already created. So I just go to that. It's going to show me the documents where this receive not invoiced amount is not equal to 0. So if I expand the filter here, actually, it's going to show me those different views. If I go create a new PO, I can look up my vendor, but again, I can just type in if I know it is for Boyer. I can just put the vendor name in here. If it finds that record, it's going to default the other information in. Maybe I do know the invoice number up front, but if I don't, I can actually put that invoice number in later once the invoice comes through. You can actually see I got a warning message here. So this invoice already exists for the vendor, so it's doing that duplicate check. So it looks like I randomly type in those same numbers quite a bit. So there, that's a new invoice. And now I can actually start entering in my PO. So again, maybe I am purchasing items. So I get my item list here. I don't know what my item is, but I know I need a chair. I can type that in. It's going to give me my different chairs here. Pick the one I want. I do have the ability to have multiple locations. So I can have, where do I want this to be shipped to? Where am I going to ship it out of? I can have bin codes as well on my locations. I can associate these expenses to projects. So if I need to pass through these expenses to a customer, I can pick which project and which task that I actually want these for. And if I have time at the end, I'll show this to you quick. But here's where, again, I've got these dimensions. So if this is related to the Dynamics implementation, I can code that in there. I can put in that, I need 6 of these chairs. If I go further over to the right, you'll see I've got my other dimensions here as well. So again, this would be a screen that I would personalize. Maybe that region code, I need it a lot farther over to the left. I don't want to scroll all that way over. So I can just drag this over here. And now I've got those dimensions lined up better for how I want to do my entry. But like I mentioned, these transactions don't just have to be items. So maybe I want to record something just to a miscellaneous GL account. So I want that consulting services in here. They're going to bill me 4 hours. And I've got my rate here of $200 an hour. So I can put that in here as well, and then again, code to those dimensions. When this is ready to go, I'd be able to route it for approval request. I would also then be able to email the PO out if I needed to. So I can have multiple PO templates on here if I wanted to. Again, I've got the ability to put attachments on here. So if I did want to have some attachments, I can see that. And I can also see product availability. So do I have this item already in stock or not? If I click on this item, it looks like I don't. So I can tell that, yeah, I do. Oh, actually, it took a little while to switch. So I can actually see I've already got 77 items in inventory. Do I really need to buy another 6? Maybe, maybe not. I can actually click on that availability and actually get a view as to what's this kind of the story of this product look like. So I can actually see that I've got 77, but I've got a couple of transactions pending here for different dates. I can expand this and I can actually see, well, I do have some pending orders for this product. So yeah, maybe this is going to decrement all the way down pretty quickly, and I do need to buy it because these are spoken for some orders. But I can see, well, I actually do have 77. I've actually got another PO out here already for it. So do I really need to acquire this inventory? On the sales side as well, you'll see that too, where it will show you what you have on hand and whether you're able to fulfill that order or not. If I just come over here to sales invoice, just want to show you this screen here as well pretty quick. Again, it's going to look very, very similar to the PO side. So now when I click on this invoice, I can actually see this transaction. So again, the look, feel, and concept is the same. I can have items, I can have employees on here that we're billing their services to, and I can just record things directly to GL accounts as well. If again you are more service-based, I can have this type default to any one of these that I want. So maybe I just want it to default to GL account because we just don't do anything with products. So let me go look at my vendor list here real quick. Show you what the master records look like. So this is where I would onboard new vendors. Again, it's like a quick query. So if I want to dump this data out to Excel, I can get that list of vendors out here. If I need to search for a specific vendor, so I've got hundreds and hundreds of vendors, and I know, oh, Carol's the main contact for Boyer, I can type that in and it's going to start filtering that down for me. I can click on the filter and actually have multiple views here. So again, like a quick query favorite, I just want to go look at all my Minneapolis vendors real quick. I can click on that and see those vendors. Switch back to all here. This is where I do have the ability to edit information in Excel as well. So again, this is existing on transactions, posted documents, in this case, vendor records. So if I do edit in Excel, this is going to function a little bit differently, but I can now use Excel as actually my user interface with my data. So what's going to happen is this is going to function a little bit differently. When I click enable editing, it's actually going to authenticate my user now. So it's still going through a security layer. It's still making sure, does this user have rights to make changes to the data they're attempting to change? Once I get connected, now I can start changing anything in here I want. I can change vendor IDs, names, but if we look at balance, we got a vendor here with a really high balance. That field is red. So there are certain audit sensitive fields that I cannot change. I could actually I can design this layout and put the key fields in here that I want, and I could actually just connect directly from Excel into Business Central and not always have it export out like this. So if I have a certain layout and I'm just constantly updating phone numbers or addresses, I can create that template the way I want to have it. But it's Excel, so I can do formulas in here as well. Maybe I've got addresses in another Excel file. I can do a VLOOKUP, pull those all in, publish them up. Here's phone numbers. If I need to change a phone number, I can say, I know Carol's at 4315. I can make a change here to make these all 9s. Once those changes are done, I just hit the publish button. It's going to push that up. Tells me it's successful. When I come back in here and refresh this page, we will see those 2 phone numbers should be updated. All right, there's those 2 updates. So again, looking at wide world importers, if I drill onto that vendor and I see this high balance, I have, again, the same icon here where I can share this to Teams. So when I do this, it's going to pop up in Teams, who do you want it to go to? This is an example of what it looks like when it gets sent over. So I'm sending this over to Megan saying, we've got a vendor here with a really high balance. Can you look into it? Megan can actually click on the details here. It's going to do the same thing. It's going to sign her in, make sure she has access. I'll just sign in through mod admin this time though. So it's still going through that security layer, but then it's going to take me to that exact page that I want to have that discussion with her on via Teams. So now she comes into this exact same page that I was just in. She could see attachments on here. She can click on this balance due. And again, this is now a list view. So if she wants this data in Excel, she can. If she wants to change how we're sorting, I want to look at these older invoices that go back into March. And then just like the other view I was at where I initiated payment, I could come in here and say, okay, these March invoices, these have got to get queued up for payment. They're too old. And I've got the same functionality here where I can now create that payment. So I'm interacting with Business Central now via Teams instead of using a web browser or using Excel. One other thing I want to show you with that Office 365 is this Outlook integration. So a couple things in here is if I have a workflow approval request comes through, I'll get an email alert like this. I can actually click on this document number. It's going to direct me into that specific transaction in Business Central, so I can see exactly what I am looking at and what I'm approving. And if I had attachments in there, I'd be able to see those attachments as well. I've also got the ability here where Eric has emailed. So Eric is a contact for Boyer & Associates, and he's following up on an invoice. So I can do a couple things in here. I can actually click on this document number, and Outlook is detecting that this is a transaction in Business Central. This was not a pre-embedded hyperlink. This is the plugin for Outlook where it can actually go and say, I see this looks like a transaction in Business Central, and it's going to now take me to that actual document so I can see exactly what Eric's referring to. So here's that invoice. From here, I actually could take some actions on it. So maybe the email was, void this out, I could actually void it, but I could come in here and actually look at comments. Maybe somebody put comments on here as to why we haven't paid this invoice off yet. So now I can reply to Eric. I can also click this contact insight. So I mentioned that we can link our customers and our vendors through Outlook. So again, Eric is set up. He's actually set up as both a customer and a vendor, but I can click on this vendor information, and because this email address is associated in Business Central to this contact, I can now see that vendor information. So I could go drill down on balance, see all the open invoices in the system. I can pick any one of these invoices and actually drill back on it. Again, the red indicates to me that those are past due. I can look at any past payments, and I can see these fact boxes here as well. So if I want to go look at any historical invoices, I'd be able to go into that list view as well, and I can see attachments and so on and so forth. Also from here, if I want to initiate a new document, I can create that document. So all the customer vendor information will default in because it knows who they are, and I can start creating that document from Outlook here as well. All right, last thing I just want to show you is that jobs module and really how this view changes. So again, I'm going to go up to, let me show inventory real quick as well, just so you can get an idea of inventory setup. So with inventory, this is my product list. Inventory, I can have, you can actually see I've got images associated if I want to list this out though. I can have my items be inventory. Again, they could be non-inventory, so we're not tracking on-hand balances, or they could be services. So this is where I've got my consulting services set up. So when I get billed by Boyer, I just pick consulting, and it's going to automatically default in that rate for me. I can have items also be assembly. So this is kind of light manufacturing. So again, Business Central has a full-blown manufacturing, but if I still want to have some components in here and have those components get pulled out of inventory when we create this bundle here, I can certainly do that and have multiple items on here. All right, let's just look at jobs. I'll go here real quick, show some of the inventory setup. So kind of standard information. I can have my different costs on here. I can set up unique costs for vendors as well, so I can maintain kind of that vendor price sheets on here. I can have unique pricing for my customers on here as well. Here's where I've got my assemblies and how we're going to assemble it. Am I going to assemble it to a stock or specific to an order? So this comes in and it's going to queue up that assembly right away if I do it assemble to order. If this was component items though, I could have fixed quantities on here as well. So I always want to make sure we've got 20 on hand, and I can put lead times in here as well. It's going to take me 70 days to get that order in here. When all that is said and done, then what I can run is a requisition worksheet, and the requisition worksheet is going to come back with recommendations of what I need to purchase. So it's going to go through open orders. I can put a forecast in there, and it's basically going to say, okay, these are the items that you need to get purchase orders on, and I can automatically have the system create those POs. Finally, just want to look at the jobs real quick. So here I'm just going to change my role to project manager. When I do that, you're going to see how this page really adjusts now. So I'm no longer concerned about chart of accounts. I don't care about GL balances. I want to make sure our projects are profitable. So I've got my list of jobs here that I'm managing. I can see some charts here as to what my profitability looks like, how we're comparing on project costs. Could have very different reports in here as well, because I'm concerned more again with those projects. And if I click on jobs, just show you a couple examples here, is jobs can be fairly complex, where I actually have phases and milestones in there. So I've got all my different kind of steps that I need to go through on these projects. I can have my budget and actual cost and price, or jobs can be a lot more simplistic. So I just have 3 tasks in here. Maybe I only have 1 task that I need to do. And what these tasks have are these job planning lines, which is really how I'm building out the budget and what we are anticipating billing through on this project. So again, I can still have expenses come through here. I can have my consultants putting time in, and that time's going to push into here, and then all that will allow me to create an invoice and bill my customer for this. I can book to a WIP account as well if we've accrued all of these charges and we're not ready to actually invoice it yet. So pretty good functionality with this. So again, very high level. We are certainly more than happy to have ongoing conversations with you. Again, the intent of this was really to give you information as to what your options are. We're not telling you you got to get off of SL. We're not telling you you got to get on Business Central. We want to help educate you and help you make the right decision for your company. please feel free to reach out if there's any additional details you want. Again, we can do more structured demos. Maybe we need to get into inventory a lot more, or we've got to see how that sales process looks like, or warehouse management looks like. We're more than happy to do that. So with that, just want to thank you very much for attending. Hope this was beneficial, and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.